Do these bands also influence you in your music?
Yeah, bands that influence me more so are bands like Job, as I mentioned before, V&V Nation to an extent, 9 Inch Nails as well. A few other electronic bands here and there, but they would be the main influences that I would, if I was going to describe my music, it would be a cross between those three bands.
And since when does Angel Theory exist in this present formation?
Okay, Angel Theory exists in this present formation since about September 2002 was when I started writing for this project. After about 6 months of writing, I sent out some demos.
So what are you dealing with in your album?
The next album?
The next album.
Yeah, the next album is called Repossession. And as I mentioned, it'll be out in probably September, October. This album is more about how I see the world, how the world's changing. The world sort of has changed quite a lot in the last few years with a lot of terrorism and stuff going on. So there's a lot of, in a lot of ways, we've lost our innocence. Innocence as a people kind of thing. So now we live in constant fear of this happening or that happening sort of thing. So there's a lot.
Do you live in constant fear?
I wouldn't say that I live personally in constant fear all the time, but from what I see on the news, it's always like, you know, this car bombing happening or, you know, this, you know, things happening around the world all the time. It's like there's always something going on in the world. There's wars happening here, there's wars happening there sort of thing. And I try not to pay too much attention to it because I think you get very depressed within yourself. So the album is about repossessing the planet and getting that innocence back somehow.
You want to make people aware of it, of the dangers we are in?
Not necessarily aware of the dangers that we're in, more so to be aware of the fact that things have changed a lot, but it's not too late to go back to that innocence again and live where we don't think that something's going to happen around us or something like that all the time. So yeah, it's more of a thing of being able to reclaim the innocence back.
Okay.
You're gonna make a jacket.
And what sounds and instruments do you use on your album, or what instruments or sounds are important for you?
Yeah, mainly what I use for sounds is I like to use lush atmospheric sounds, strings and pads to make that sort of nice atmosphere. And underneath that I like to use lots of harsh beats and distorted loops and that kind of thing. So there's a nice contrast between the harsh and the lush on top of each other. So that's pretty much where my sound sort of comes from that aspect. I don't use any specific instruments in general. Whatever sounds, what I tend to do is when I make music, if something, I look for sounds that complement each other, and if they complement each other well, I'll keep them in there. So it could end up being a guitar sound, or it could end up being some sort of drum sound, or even a flute. I actually used a flute on the first album, but I put a bit of distortion. I put a bit of distortion behind it, so it actually sounds more like a guitar and not a flute sort of thing.
So very experimental.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I like to take an ordinary sound and change it into something different. Yeah.
So you see the influence of the other bands, maybe Nine Inch Nails,
yes.
And then you get some new ideas, and then you can experiment on this.
Exactly. So the influences come from here, there, and everywhere, and they all just sort of funnel through. And but a lot of the instruments a lot of the sounds I come up with sometimes are by accident. Like I'll accidentally stumble across them.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll press the wrong button on the computer or something, and
not by force.
Exactly. Totally by accident. It's like, oh, this is actually really quite good. So I'll keep it. So a lot of that happens.
Maybe the people like it.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. I mean, that's how the flute sound happened. It was totally by accident that I actually added distortion to it. I was meant to do something else. I can't remember, but it sounded great, so I kept it.
It's extraordinary for an electro band to use a flute.
Oh yeah, well, Kraftwerk used the flute in the 60s, so there you go.
Okay. So is there anything you want to tell our audience?
Hopefully I'll be able to come back next year and do some more shows. I actually really enjoy playing live. Playing live is it's actually really a lot of fun. I mean, sort of traveling from city to city and staying in hotels is really tiring and really boring, but when you go on stage is the best part. It's a lot of fun. So hopefully when people see the show, they enjoy it as well.
We hope so.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Das war jetzt John von Angel Theory und wir werden nachher live noch von dem Konzert berichten. Also bis dahin, tschüss.
See you later, alligator. There you go.
This is transmission.